After being heralded as the next digital hotspot, the Metaverse has plummeted out of favor, in tandem with the fate of its parent company, Meta, formerly known as Facebook. Brands that were tripping over each other to grab a space in this new space suddenly started to make a hasty exit. The post-COVID world was returning to stores. People wanted experiences in real life and were making the internet part of their lives rather than the center of their lives. However, despite the overall trend of moving back to the physical world, there might just be some unique opportunities for brands in the metaverse if they know where they are and how to capitalize on them. Meet Kate Newlin, a renowned business and brand strategist with a keen sense of what the future might look like, in part due to her previous tenure as managing director of Faith Popcorn's BrainReserve. I'm Jane Singer, and welcome back to A Seat at the Table, where we expand our vision of the opportunities and possibilities in today's fast-moving global business world by speaking with the people who are making things happen. Today, Kate Newlin will be discussing what she sees as massive brand opportunities in the metaverse that most companies are overlooking. She'll be sharing whether metaverse marketing is a trend or a fad, why she believes the metaverse is a step change for business growth and brand development, the rules of the road, what separates the winners from the wannabes in this space, and how a brand can begin this journey. Whether your business is online, offline, or in the metaverse, to succeed, you need to have the right people in the right positions. That's a lot easier said than done, especially now when unemployment is at historic lows in many markets. Finding the best talent is a skill that takes years to hone. And so most companies work with an executive search firm like AsiaNet Consultants to help identify the best candidates. It's really amazing how game-changing having decades of experience and a massive network of potential candidates can be when you're trying to find people with highly specialized skills or precise experience. I've seen AsiaNet fill search assignments that I figured would be impossible to fill, but I guess that's the benefit of having a top-notch team that's truly connected to the market. They know a lot of the non-obvious candidates, those hidden gems that many other companies overlook. You can learn more about AsiaNet Consultants at their website, asianetconsultants.com. I'll drop a link in the show notes for this episode. Now, let's join Kate in exploring new opportunities in the metaverse. Kate, thank you so much for joining us again here on A Seat at the Table. A lot has changed since we last spoke, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on the metaverse, because I think that there's been a lot of conversation around it, and then people sort of stopped talking about it. I guess everybody sort of shifted over to what's happening around AI and ChatGPT, and it'll be interesting to really take a deep dive with you into what you see.
Terrific. I'm excited to talk to you about it, Jane. And I think, early in my career, I was president of a company called Faith Popcorn's BrainReserve, right? Futurist organization, and very, very exciting work, which they're still doing. One of the things she taught me, one of the many things she taught me, was there's a difference between a fad and a trend. I believe we're seeing that in sharp relief right now, because all the buzz moves around. It's metaverse, this, and then AI, and then that, and I think those are little blips along the path. There's a research agency called Gartner that publishes its hype chart, and you can actually track the hype around a new technology. But the longer term vision, the trend vision, is the notion that this is happening. It's going to become increasingly more part of our daily lives as consumers and as marketers and as designers and as thinkers. This is coming. It's like trying to say, let's not have the tide come in this day. It is coming. It is real, and it is exciting for those willing to explore it.
Now, what exactly do you see happening? I mean, what do you see as the impact? What do you see as the opportunities?
Make company, we're calling it a once in a career opportunity, is you're suddenly going to have consumers co-creating with brands and businesses. That's the step change. That's the idea that says you're not going to put people into focus groups anymore, you're going to be able to see their actual behaviors and give them license to be playful with your brands. And the gamification we're already seeing in the world of the metaverse, of generative AI, of the world of any part of this technology step change, as I call it, we're beginning to see what that looks like, where you're actually, because what's powerful here is that people want to spend time in these spaces.
How do you see people co-creating? What does that look like?
Well, take a look. I mean, one of my favorite examples is Wendy's, because it shows the the trajectory of modern marketing right along with it. So you remember I want to say in the 80s, there was a Where's the Beef commercial,
Right.
where they were pointing out it was all about the product. And then you move
Right.
forward a little bit and you get into, all right, consumer behaviors are changing and we need to have all the calories on the menu. We need to have some healthier options. So if you think of the first is getting rid of negatives, you start then seeing an addition of positives, but it's all corporate developed and corporate aligned marketing. But here, what you're seeing now is that Wendy's has created a character called Wendy, and she is in the metaverse in, I believe it's Fortnite, playfully engaging to shoot down any frozen meats. So it's still on messages, but you've got the consumer, the gamer, the player actively engaged with Wendy. They're on her side of the argument. It's much more engaging. It's not just passively taking in the information. You're playful, you're on her side, and you're playing with her to eradicate the problem as she sees it. There's Wendyverse, where you can create your own best burger. You're co-creating those, and then when there's enough traction around a burger or a menu item, they can actually offer that in store, IRL. So you're beginning to see this circularity between virtual reality and, the up and down the street of where's the closest Wendy's franchise. Can I get that burger that I bought for my avatar?
Oh, that's very interesting. So in other words, they're enabling people to sort of play around with this in the metaverse, and then depending upon what people create there, they may opt to take some of that and actually turn it into a real product.
I think you're going to see it in fashion. You're seeing it see it across the board, and it's powered by creativity, both on the brand side and on the consumer side. But what we're moving to is an era of real relationship. So if it was absence of negatives, addition of positives, but now you're in a relationship. And I don't know about you, but relationships can be tough, right?
Right.
So brands are going to have to really think differently. It's no longer a top-down world in which here's what we're offering, like it or leave it. It's very much here's what you're wanting, but you're not going to be finding out through focus groups. It's going to be real time in the metaverse, that you can see what people are creating, how many people like it, what you need to do as a consequence of that. It's far more interactive at the brand and business level, not to say just at the gaming level.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because oftentimes, like you say, with focus groups, you get a sense of what people like, but whereas, with what you're describing in the metaverse, you're actually seeing a much more of like a prototype, you might say. That's not necessarily the right choice of words, of what that consumer really wants and is more likely to buy.
And they're actually creating it. It's not a, white ball, black ball, we like this, we don't like that kind of thing. It's not binary. It's watch them and then see how they react when other people create that. Do they like it too? You're getting all that field work done. And it's not just in marketing. We've identified 5 different areas where there can be real understanding of the value here. And one of them is in operational efficiencies. So you see things like BMW building a factory in the metaverse first before they understand, before they put, the first shovel in the dirt, to create it IRL. They're building it to make sure it works the way they want it to work. It's sort of a shakeout cruise virtually. You're seeing things like revenue generation is a brand marketing, revenue generation. These are both fair objectives.
You were also talking about hiring and training in the metaverse.
Doesn't Wendyverse seem like it would be a better place to apply than someplace else? And if you're Wendy's and you want to be able to promote trained employees, can't you train them in this world? So there's an enormous quantity of opportunities here, which is why it's not a fad. This is moving. This is happening.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
Right. So if I'm understanding you correctly, then the metaverse, like you say, is less about sort of the hype that's been promoted around it and more about almost seeing it as, I don't want to say a digital twin, but in a sense, a way to not only prototype actual products, but to be able to, in a sense, prototype processes or test various processes before you actually fully roll them out.
And you're in this world where you fully understand the real world applications before you have to do thing one. Imagine designers working with their consumers, with their customers. It may augur a world of bespoke designs, right? Like we can't actually see the end yet, but we can see the opportunities, and there are tremendous opportunities, not the least of which is the real estate opportunities, right? Like if you know, for example, if you're a franchise-based company and you understand that there are these landscapes of places in the metaverse that people want to congregate, don't you want to put up your Wendy's near there? Don't you want to have a mall near there? Don't you, you can see how buying up real estate in different metaverse worlds is a foundational element to its development, just the way buying real estate in the real world, in IRL, was so important in the development of our business systems and our ecosystems. So where you exist in these virtual worlds becomes important. And there are companies that are looking at chains that are looking at buying up spaces. And you can go on, I think there's a place called Superworld where you can buy a virtual version of the world that we know. So you can get a leg of the Eiffel Tower. You can buy that real estate. You can buy, there's still blocks of Times Square that are available, and then people buy that and then they wait, and it could well increase in value over time. So there's all sorts of opportunities that exist in this space. It's, we've taken to calling it not just a metaverse, but all of Web3, because it's all these new technologies.
Wow, isn't that incredible? I mean, seriously, who, a couple of years ago, who would have thought that, right?
If we shake our heads and say, oh no, that's not coming, then, it's the equivalent of burying your head in the sand and saying that, real world malls are the only way to sell goods and services, right? Like, yeah, they were, but they're not going to be. So you have to move with the consumer. And frankly, I mean, it's
Right.
if you think about brand marketing, Jane, it's this notion. Think about what um, what it means to, if you're a brand, to say, okay, who's playing in the metaverse now? And it's all 15 to 23-year-olds, right? So why is Hermes and why is Gucci, why are these fashion products working so hard to figure this out? Because they want to stay relevant to a younger market. They These kids are going to grow up with a very different understanding of these marquee designer brands. They're not, and that's powerful if you're a legacy brand in other spaces. If you're oatmeal, if you're like that's, if they're doing it, that gives you
Right.
a signal of what could be so important in down aging a brand. It's an appealing to a younger audience, which is going to grow both in age and in wealth. And then you've got a brand like Vans, the shoes, that already has a passionate core, already have people that love and wouldn't buy something else. So your ability to connect them with each other, the shared mindset, is fabulous. So you can deconstruct the opportunities very clearly for brand marketing. Loyalty, I mean, look what Starbucks is doing with its Odyssey program, which is essentially an NFT, right? But they're not calling it that because that's the fatty
Right.
nomenclature, right? They're calling it a loyalty program, but it is
Right.
remarkable.
Right.
So you can see how, as you drill down, you find that there are powerful reasons to engage, business reasons but also the margin growth that's available for an Hermes bag that exists only in pixels is pretty it's quite incredible, and the reduced
Yeah.
impact on
Quite
the
incredible.
environment,
Yeah.
and all of those things. Like there's so many reasons to become engaged here. So that's why we're at my company, Kate Newlin Consulting, and what we're doing is kind of taking our client base and encouraging them to look forward and figure out what are those strategies that they can use, that they can borrow from what other people are doing in different categories, and really find their own pathway through it.
So interesting. Now you talk about the rules of the road. What are the rules of the road? What separates the wannabes from the winners?
Amazingly important point, right? Like if you go in thinking you're going to maintain, here's what we've created, let's see if you like it or not. It can't be a top-down thing. It has to be
Right.
this co-creation, and you have to be open to it. So I think you see, when I look at wannabes, I look at the NFT programs that are run, let's say, around the Super Bowl, and it feels to me like it's an allegedly modern equivalent to any promotional activity of the past 20 years. It's like themed event because we're all going to be watching the Super Bowl, so we need something to plug in there, and now let's make it an NFT. Let's make it feel like that. Those are fads for sure, because they don't work at a sustaining business level. They're opportunistic, and if you ran a buy one get one, you might get the same business result. So I think the ones that the brands and the businesses that carry with them or allow for creativity to be part of their brands that really understand that it's okay to be playful, that there's a wit. Now, I think that's why fashion works here, because they are inherently, if you look at any great designer, you see the elements of wit and that are brought to bear. There's just a subtle corruption of the expected, and you get the whimsy. And those are the kinds of experiences that people want to engage in. They want clever. They want joyful. And I think the virtual reality space still has room for that, whereas our day in, day out life can feel somewhat gravity fed. It brings us down. But here's a place, and it's just important to notice that, a place where people want to play. They want to spend their time, and increasingly they want to spend their money there. And what business person doesn't want to follow that? This is where they want it. They don't want to go to the mall. They don't, they don't want those old world experiences when this new one beckons. And I think we have the opportunity, really leaderly brands have the opportunity to enter now and grow with.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because there's a lot of conversation around experience. And as you're pointing out, there's many different kinds of experiences that people can have. And, from what you're describing here, the metaverse really does offer a lot of opportunity for brands to create unusual experiences and perhaps something that consumers can't get elsewhere, or that they might not be able to even achieve elsewhere.
It's a remarkable experience. I mean, most of the sites right now, you do not need the goggles for, right? You're experiencing them through a screen. So if you go to Roblox or you go to Fortnite, you're going to these different places, and it's contingent on how big is your screen, right? What is your equipment in that sense? But you don't need to put on the whole meta kind of goggle experience. Now that's a barrier, because if you do put on the meta goggles, you get a very different and very rich experience that is otherworldly. I mean, you're in a very different place, and it's exhilarating, I find. I mean, and you can have meetings there with people if they're behind goggles too. But you can see that's the barrier. That's the embedded base of those is not great. Now, allegedly, Apple will come out with their version, which will be more like glasses, not the encumbrance, but they're going to be much more expensive. So you can see that this is, right now we've got, the kind of flat screen, or the kinds of gamer goggles that you can put on and get a 3D kind of feel to it, or we have the meta experience, and soon the Apple one. But can there be any question that this is where we're going, right? Like that's where we're headed. And 10 years from now, it'll be like, if you remember that when email started, and there were CEOs who said, I don't want to use email. So their secretaries would print out hard copy and bring them, that's, I don't believe there are any CEOs that say that anymore, right? Like, it's that shift. It's our behavior that has to shift, and our attitudes towards reality and who am I, and power and prestige and all of those kinds of things that evolve perhaps more slowly than the market space does.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, sometimes things do take a long time to gain traction, right? Things have been invented sometimes even hundreds of years, not hundreds, but, close to 100 years before it was ever picked up, right? Just as they introduced the ability to have phones where you could see the other, that had sort of a television screen, and nobody wanted to use it. I think maybe, did Bell Telephone develop that back in the 60s, maybe?
Right.
I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I saw a documentary about that, and it's only, quite recently that now everybody's on Zoom, and we're so used to being able to have calls and see the other person. Whereas when it first came out, people were like, who the heck want to do that?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's the exact, kind of human psychology piece of it that can be, exert a gravitational pull on our ability to make progress. But this train is moving, right? Like, this is is happening. So it's just a question of, how long do I want to be in denial? Or I believe there are genuine first and second mover advantages here to get the understanding of how consumers want to react and want to engage in your brands. And then, you get that in learning, and you keep going. I mean, imagine 1984, I think it was Bill Gates who said his vision was that there'd be a computer in every home, right? Like,
Right.
it was shocking because our mental image was of those
Yes.
big IBM computers with the little punch cards that, like that was what we were thinking, or like a telephone with a TV screen in it, like it feels cumbersome because we're applying what we know to what it will be. But this will be different than what we know. That's the power of it. And Bill Gates never imagined that we'd have a computer in every pocket as we do now with phones. Like it goes beyond what we're capable, because we're looking backwards in order to imagine what the future will look like. And actually the future moves at its own pace.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Now, how can a brand begin this journey?
What we've learned, and this is so important. Thank you for asking this, because in the work that we do, we're a business strategy firm, right? So we get brought in because a client wants to consider this space. And they're frustrated because the kinds of people who know how to build this space do not know how to talk strategy. They know how to build tactics. So a corporate type who's looking for what's the strategic intent of what we're doing has one vocabulary, one lexicon, one ROI, and all of those kinds of issues that they're looking for to inform strategy. And on the other side, the vocabulary is all about the next cool thing. So what's very important, and what we've learned in this work, is mission clarity is job one. If you can identify, and we do that with our clients, like, where's the pain point? What would you like to solve that you haven't been able to solve, whether it's margin growth or your footprint or whatever it is. Let's get very clear about that. Let's develop strategies that begin to take us to a place where the actual coders can understand what it is that we need built, but don't start from a position of, oh, let's do something in the metaverse and then hope that that's going to have a business impact. So we see ourselves, and we think the critical missing link here, the white space, is in that genuinely rigorous strategic development that says, here's what we want to do, and here's how we think we can do it, before you ever get to the let's talk to the cool gamer dudes, right? Like let's get the vision articulated in a way that will matter inside the C-suite, so that when we hit roadblocks along the way, we know what the North Star is. We know where we're headed.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think that it's really good that you brought that up, because so many people get caught up sort of in the, I don't know what the right word is, but the fun side of it. And they start on the creative side without ever thinking about, like you say, a roadmap of like, where are we now? Where do we want to be? What's our objective? And then let's build something to get us there, as opposed to just having fun with it and not really actually achieving anything.
I think that's right. It can devolve to just being a promotional tool, but why start there? Why denude it of meaning so fast to fit in a spreadsheet that we know we can put this amount of money at risk for? If you aim higher, because this is a remarkable series of tools that you have here. I mean, it really is staggering what can be done. So the idea of focusing on literally what the pain points are in your business model, if it's in pharma and healthcare, compliance is a huge thing. Well, what can you do here to make it easier for consumers, for patients, to actually remember the reason why they're taking their medicine, right? And to remind them to do it. There's a lot in that world. If the pain point is returns, if you're a retailer and people are buying online, there's a lot here that can be done with virtual try-ons and a whole series of data analysis tools. It is a remarkable series of opportunity areas. But if you don't value it beyond let's do a Super Bowl promotion, then that's all you're going to get. Whereas there's much more available here. There are much more essential tools to solve really burning platform questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've shared a lot of really interesting things here, and I think people listening to this are going to want to reach out to you and ask their own very specific questions. Where can people find you? How can they connect
All
with
right.
you?
So easily enough, I'm on LinkedIn. I
Perfect.
I have a website, katenewlin.com. We do business here, both here and in Northern California. So we've got a phone number, 212-227-0220. And you can email me at kate@katenewlin.com, Newlin.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, I'm going to put all of those links in the show
Great.
notes. And like I said, I think a lot of people are going to want to be able to discuss their own sort of unique situations and maybe be able to brainstorm with you a little bit and see how they can maybe rethink how the metaverse might fit into their business.
Outstanding. Well, I look forward to everyone, and I always look forward to talking with you.
Well, Kate, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your taking the time to join us here on A Seat at the Table.
Happy to be here. Happy to have a seat at the table.
Thanks again.
Thank you.